As Troy mentioned, I'm Luke. I've worked with Trimble for 6 years now, the last 3 of them in this role as one of the product managers for Trimble Access. So I've been working probably the last year or so a lot more with the connected workflows, so the Trimble Connect workflows with Trimble Access and Trimble Connect, the sort of office to field and then back to office workflows of survey data. So what I'm going to run through now is sort of the direction we're now headed with Trimble Access and how to get data onto the data collector and how to get your field data back. Our cloud strategy has kind of changed over the years. We started off with a sync manager, or with Access Sync with the TSE3s, to Sync Manager with the new release of Trimble Access in 2018. And now we're going more to a direct to Trimble Connect strategy. So rather than that Sync Manager application, directly to Trimble Connect. So I'm going to start off with a few problems that I see some customers having and see if they resonate a little bit with you. So sometimes on your large construction projects, there are often design changes. Utility plans get updated, or a concrete pad gets moved because of ground conditions, and usually that's because of engineers. As a surveyor, I have something against engineers. And that can actually be really costly. So even if it's just a day of rework for the surveyor, that's your hourly rate times 8. But if you actually get that incorrect set out, or if they pour a concrete pad based on bad data or delayed data, that can be a lot of money to actually resolve. In the sort of connected workflow, well, any design changes that are pushed up to the cloud get down to the field within 5 minutes. So you can actually be sure that the surveys in the field, as long as they've got an internet connection, are working off the latest designs. Data delays. So if you're working in a large organization where you've got one group of surveys in the field and a group drafting in the office, then often when the surveyor finishes work, it takes the time for them to drive back to the office and hand over a USB stick in order for that drafting to happen. And so that might mean the drafting happens the next day. But in that connected workflow, drafting can happen 1 minute after the design is finished. So the surveyor can sync up the data and the drafting team can pick it up and start working on it immediately. This is hopefully not familiar to you guys, but anyone ever put their data collector on the top of the truck and driven off? If you haven't backed up that data, then you could be losing a week's worth of data. So in your connected workflow, your data is synced and backed up regularly. So even if the worst happens and you lose your data controller or it gets run over by an excavator, then your data is backed up and you have your data. If you're working with 3D BIM files, now this is definitely a more advanced functionality and we see it more in the European countries. If you're using those complex 3D models, it can often be really difficult to identify what you need to work with in the field. You might spend quite a while isolating components and zooming in and orbiting around the model. But in a connected workflow, you could have a survey manager actually isolate the elements from the model that you're interested in, and then send that kind of group of elements down to the field. And that makes it easier for the field user to actually unlock that value of the 3D model, use the 3D model without getting lost in all of its complexity. And finally, on your large projects, you often have a lot of jobs coming through. Usually it depends on you organize those jobs. Well, I organize those jobs based on naming structures. So you'd name the job, initials of a surveyor, the task, and the date potentially. But that can actually, especially after a year of jobs in the same project, it can become difficult to find what jobs are relevant to what area of the project you're working on, or if there is an issue with a certain manhole. It's hard to figure out what job related to that data. In your connected workflows, you can see all of the job data visualized within a project, visualized on a map, and you can use tags to actually organize that data and make it easier to find those jobs. So there are some problems that you can you'll hopefully see how we can solve with the connected workflows. I'll quickly talk about now a real high-level overview of what our workflow is. So you can see in this, we've got our starting step is in the office. So in the office, you prepare your designs, you maybe review a design sent to you by a contractor or something like that, and then you upload that design to Trimble Connect. In Trimble Connect, you can organize that design in a folder structure that makes sense. You can set permissions so only the correct people have access to those files. Then from Trimble Access, we pull down the designs we need and use them in the field. From Trimble Access, we upload our finished jobs back up into the cloud, and then we can bring those jobs from the cloud back into an Office software for processing, or into TBC for you maybe creating surfaces or topo plans or whatever sort of processing you need. So there's a high-level overview. I'll kind of dig into each one of those steps a little bit more. So that first step of actually taking your designs from your Office program and publishing them to the cloud. If you use TBC, then I think it may have been the latest release of TBC, in the export form, there is now a remote save button. And that button lets you save your project directly, lets you export your files directly to Trimble Connect. So when you tap the remote save, a browser sort of opens up and it says, what project would you like to save that into? If you select a project, you can choose, if there's folders in there, you can choose what folder to save that design under that. So that's under the export option in TBC at the bottom of the form. Rather than exporting it locally, you can export it directly to the cloud. If you don't use TBC, then it's actually really simple to just drag and drop a file into the Connect web browser. So here I just dragged the building foundation line work. So you can just drag and drop your designs directly into the file explorer. It does the same thing as what we do, saving it directly from TBC. So now designs are in the cloud. What can we actually do with them to organize them and make sure that the right people get the right data? So first off, the Connect Explorer is essentially just a file explorer. What we can do here is create folders to kind of just categorize what files are which. So you could put control files in a folder, you could put routing alignments in a folder, and you could put surfaces in another folder, or any sort of organization that works. If it's a large project, perhaps you want to break it up into zones, zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, whatever sort of matches your company's workflows. You also manage your groups. So you invite certain people to projects. You could invite your entire organization, but you can also invite subcontractors and anyone else who you want to have access to that data.
Hey,
you can
Luke,
also create, yes.
Can I quickly jump in here real quick? We have a question. I think this might be the right time to ask this. This comes from Sean Ireland. After you remote save from TBC, is there a way to make the data available without going into Trimble Sync and changing the icon from being grayed out to gold and available to the crew?
So I know what you're touching on here. The workflow that I'm going to show you right now is very much you put it in the cloud, and then from Trimble Access, we pull it down. I think what you're touching on here is in Sync Manager, you can essentially flag the file to go down to every controller.
Right.
In today's workflow, no. Hopefully very, very soon we'll have a way of doing that without going into Sync Manager. So that is pretty much the next thing on our roadmap to hit, which is to add that same functionality just in Trimble Connect rather than going into Trimble Sync Manager. Or even, as you mentioned, when you save it from TBC, being able to flag it as a special project file that goes down to everyone in that project. Great question, Sean.
Keep them coming, guys. Thank you. Okay, see ya.
Yeah. So here you you can create groups of users. So if I had engineers and surveyors in a group, I could create a group of engineers and a group of surveyors, and then I could set folder permissions on certain folders. So if I wanted the engineers to only have access to a certain subset of folders, I could, make the engineer group have full access and the surveyors have no access. So you can actually organize who sees what files to kind of limit. You don't want, for example, surveyors setting out from design files that aren't ready for construction yet. So we've managed that data in Trimble Connect. We've organized it. We've given the right people the permissions. The next step is how do we actually access that data from the field to use it? So in Trimble Access, hopefully you're all familiar with this screen. We have our layer manager, which controls what files we can turn on or off in the map. And we have an add soft key. So if you're in a cloud project and you tap the add soft key, you get the ability to add files to the layer manager. And here you have a Trimble Connect option. So if you click that Trimble Connect option, you'll get the same list of files that are in the Trimble Connect Explorer. So from here, you can select all the files you want, tap accept, and download them. So that's the kind of how I was mentioning it's a pull from Trimble Access from the cloud. In Trimble Access, you search for the files you want to select and download them. If you have a design file that gets updated in the cloud, so if we go back a step, let's say I'm using that service lane RXL file, and somebody uploads a new version of that service lane RXL, then in Trimble Access, you'll be prompted with a new file versions available. You'll be prompted to download that new file. So Trimble Access checks every 5 minutes the cloud and will let you know if there's a new version of a file available. It's great for control files. For example, if you've got people continually adding to control files, you can make sure that the surveyors always have the latest control files. Also, if something's removed from Connect, the user's alerted and said, would you like to delete it or convert it to a local file and keep using it? So that's also a really useful feature. If you've got a file that there's something really wrong with it and you want to make sure everyone's at least alerted that there's something wrong with it, you can remove that file. So that's using those design files in Trimble Access. Next, we're going to look at how we can push our job files back up into Trimble Connect. So in Trimble Access, there's a couple of ways to trigger an upload of a job. The first is just changing the status. Any status change on a Trimble Access job that's a cloud job will trigger the upload. So you can see here that icon changes from ready to upload or needing to be uploaded. When we change the status, it will start uploading and then be complete. There we go. The other way is you can actually just tap that icon. That triggers an upload as well. Doesn't really look like a button, but it is a button. And then the third way to do a manual upload would be to tap the 3 dots and select upload. If you want it to be a more automated workflow, you can go into our cloud settings, and these are available from the project screen. There's a settings button at the top, and you could turn on under file upload settings, automatically upload the project and set it to upload at a specific time interval. So this here will upload everything in the project every 10 minutes, making sure everything's backed up to the cloud. That's pushing the data from Access into the cloud. What I'm going to show you next is not released right today. It should be released in the next couple of weeks. So I'll show you what you can see today, and then I'll show you what the future solution is going to look like. So today, there is a field data extension that you can enable in Trimble Connect. And what that will do is that will show you a list of all of your Trimble Access jobs you have available that have been uploaded. So here you can download them, you can review them, you can take a look at them. That's what it looks like today. In the next couple of weeks, we should release in order to turn that on as well, because it's not available by default, it has to be turned on for the project. You have to go to the Connect settings, extensions, and trigger the little switch over field data. And then you'll find that you have that field data tab open and available for you. What we should get to in the next couple of weeks is actually visualizing all of your job data on a map. So the new update to this extension that's coming out in hopefully about 2 weeks, don't quote me on that, is that we have a processing that goes on that pulls all of the points in line work out of the job and displays them on like a background map. Like you could use a satellite map or like Google Street View here. So this shows a combination of all of your jobs on the one map, and your points are clustered to make it easy to work with the right data. I think the key value add here is you can spatially zoom into the points or the line work that you're interested in and select them, and that will select the job. So it's really a spatial view of your job data. It's not really intended to measure points from, but it's intended to get a high level overview of what data is in what job and to help you find the right job in order for you to download that later and process it. So in this example, I could zoom into, if I found that there was an issue with a manhole elevation at this level, in this location, rather than trying to figure out from the job names what job contains that manhole data, I could just zoom into the location that I know that manhole is located in, double click on the point, and it would select the job that the data's in. From there, I could download the job, or I think you can review some basic point information about that point as well. So yeah, any of the points or lines you can tap give you a little bit of information about them, not too much. Stakeout points you can see are represented by little flags, whereas feature points are represented by just a point symbol. Because we're showing lines, we actually need to have if you want to show lines, you need to have your feature code library uploaded here as well. So we need to have access to that feature code library in order to process that data. So there's a settings button at the top right of the page. If you want to show the line work, then you tap the settings button, upload your feature code library, and then we can process all of the points with feature codes into line work to show them on the map. And it does look pretty impressive with all of the line work. Rather than this being a series of points, the line work really displays the data a lot better. If you click an individual job, you can actually review a bit of information. You can see, again, another map of just that job data. Under the Reports tab, that will give you a list of all of the reports that were generated in Trimble Access that you can download or review directly from there. And we also give you a list of your job points. So here's our Reports tab. There's the survey report and the check shot report that I created in the field. And your job points, you see a list view of every point. And if there is an image linked to a point, you'd be able to review that image there as well. So there we go. There's a whirlwind tour of the field data extension. To actually get that information back down into your desktop to do something with it, you can either just tap the download button at the top right. You can also, from the big list, you could go select all and just download all the jobs if you wanted to do that. The jobs come down with all of their associated data. So just like if you'd copied the files directly from Trimble Access, when you download them here, they should come down in the exact same format with the job file and a folder containing all the other associated data. And so if you had an SX12 and you were doing scan workflows or taking photos, they would all come through as well. So you can either download them directly from the field data extension to your desktop and use them in maybe a third-party application, or even use them in Trimble Business Center. But if you wanted to bring them straight into Trimble Business Center, you could use the new connected workspace. When you tap that button in TBC, then you get a list of all of the Connect projects that are available to you. And if you select a project, you can then see a list of all of the jobs in that project. So this is very similar to the view you see in the field data extension, except it's a TBC version of it rather than the Connect version of it. From there, you can select an individual job and you get a bit of details about the job. and you can tap import to bring it straight into the TBC project. Okay, so that was a very quick run through. I'm now going to open it up to some questions, and I can start actually running some live demos if people are interested in it. So feel free to throw questions into the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, I think let's go ahead and start that live demo. Hopefully that will spark a few questions.
Sure thing. So what I will do now, can you still see my screen?
No.
Okay, you can't. I stopped sharing, did I? Let me bring up Trimble Connect and Trimble Access then. Okay, so Trimble Connect, Trimble Access. If I present my share screen, okay, let me know when you can see that.
We can see it now.
Okay.
We see an Access emulator and then Trimble Connect.
Great. So what I'm going to start is just run through that workflow from start to finish. So here I have a brand new project called I've called it Field Data Extension. And I'm going to add some design files here for Trimble Access.
Hey, Luke,
So, yes?
I'm gonna cut you off one more time. I just want to try to fill these questions as they come in. And I really hope that everybody that has questions about Connect that have ever tried to use it and have problems that we can get those questions answered. But we have Sean again is asking, I have used the connected workspace in TBC, and there are times where it asks to preserve Office edits, or it will ask to merge the data, and I will get duplicate points. How can I prevent it from merging data and just keeping the Office edits?
So this happens when I think you've got a job that you've already done some things. Now, when you click merge data, it should merge the data. It sounds like we may have a TBC bug there where when we bring like a job that's maybe half complete and then you import that job again, and you want to keep the Office edits that you've done on the first half of the job. It sounds like there may be an issue with TBC there. If we're creating duplicate points, I can bring that up with our TBC product manager and see if
Yeah,
I can
this
get an
really
answer
seems
for you there.
like a TBC issue. I'm wondering about maybe some potential settings in TBC, but if it's asking if it wants to merge the data, yeah, it should merge it. So that might be more of a TBC question. He's reiterating, I want to keep the data in the same project and just bring in each day's file into the
Yep,
overall project and merge the data each time. Yeah.
yep. That's a valid workflow. I can have a look into that for you.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry to cut you off there. You can go ahead and proceed, Luke.
No worries. Keep pushing questions through. It's good to hear. Or also, what might be good is if you guys are, how many people here? I don't know how we could do this. I wish I could have a poll, but it'd be interesting to hear how many people are using some sort of cloud workflows, whether it's Trimble Connect or sending data via email or Google Drive or Dropbox.
Those are questions. We were going to ask
Yeah,
that poll question. We were going to ask it at the end, so we will be asking a question very similar to that.
right. Okay, that sounds good. So what I have here, you can still see my screen?
Yeah.
Is boundaries, a couple of DXF files and a surface file, and I'm just going to drag and drop them into the Trimble Connect Explorer. And I mean, I'm just going to keep it really basic here. I'm not going to organize these into folders. I'm just going to leave them right there. This is a small job.
That's good.
Now I'm in Trimble Access. I've already downloaded this project from the cloud. If I hadn't used it before in Trimble Access, then it would be a grayed out one like that, and I could just download it. But here I've already used this one. I've just created a new job called Set Out Concrete Foundation. And in here, in order to get that data in, I'm going to go to the Layer Manager, tap Add, go to Trimble Connect, and there are those 3 files that I can select and download directly into the Trimble Access project. So now if I turn all those on and make them selectable, here are those 3 files available for me to use. Now, if I want to upload this job, let's say I do my foundation set out. I think here's the foundation there. What I'm going to do is just key in a couple of points, pretending that I measured these. Maybe I did offsets onto profile boards or something like that. There we go. We've got some points. The next step is to upload this job. So if I go back to the job list, I can either change the status and say, this is now fieldwork complete. And that would, if we watch this space, upload that job. Or I could tap the 3 dots and go to upload. It's grayed out now because the job is current. And if I wanted to set that automatic upload, I can go to the project page up here, tap the cloud settings button that's just along the top bar. Under the file upload settings, I can turn the switch to say automatically upload the current project and set a periodic time interval. You can also set some options like whenever I close a job, upload it, or in the morning, whenever I sign in, upload the job, or maybe when ending a survey. So I might set this to be 30 minutes, for example. One of the other things that I didn't really talk about is some of the other information that you can assign to the job. So if I finish this job and I know I want to assign it to somebody to, I don't know, do a QA check or something like that, I can click the plus and add any of the other people in the project as an assignee. We also, like if I have 100 jobs here, we can also add tags onto these jobs, user editable tags, and that will, again, help you organize and find jobs later. So to create the tags, we jump back to Trimble Connect. I can go settings and tags. And then here I can create tags. And these can be anything you like that you want to. So I could maybe, let's say I wanted to break my project into different zones. I could create a tag called Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3. I could, maybe I want to break it into types of work. So I could say, maybe it would be set out, topo, or conformance. Maybe even I want to create tags of who did it. Luke, Bob. If it's going to let me add that tag. Maybe Bob. So you can create that list of user editable tags. And then I just have to come back into here and refresh the project because it's not going to know not going to know those tags exist just yet. If I come into the project now, I'll have this option for tags. So here I can assign any of those tags that I just created. So for example, this job's in Zone 1. It's a set out job and it was done by Luke. Now those tags are associated with that job. And if I go to the field data extension here, if I go to extensions to turn the field data extension on, forget about that one. That's a special one that I've got to test the latest stuff. We go to the field data extension. This is the current released one that you would see. In here, we have our jobs, and you can see we have tags. If there are 100 jobs here, you can then use the filters to kind of, maybe I want to filter all the work down to conformance created by Luke. And you can then apply those filters, and it's a really easy way to try find the jobs, especially if you're using the tags. obviously Luke hasn't created a conformance job. Yep. Let's clear those filters, bring back the data. So that's how you can find the data back. If I wanted to review that data, I can see some basic job properties. It's just going to load. If it's going to load for me, it's a live demo, so everything takes longer. How much more time have we got? Sometimes I like showing some quick tips and tricks with Access that
we have 3
got any
minutes.
spare time. We have 3 minutes. Okay, I'm going to show you 3 of my favorite things. I mean, quite often when you've got a base station that's ages away, let's pretend this is a base station. Store, yes. Okay. Then whenever you tap the zoom extents button, you kind of get zoomed all the way out of your data. But what you can do, if you want to set your own user extents, is you can zoom into the user extents that you're working at, tap and hold that zoom extents button and click set user zoom extents. And that now means every time you're working in here and you want to go back to the user extents, it goes to that previous user extents that you just defined, not way back out to the project. There's one tip. That's probably one of my favorites. The other thing that's quite hidden is if you tap the group box select and you tap it again, you can go to a polygon select, which can let you be a little bit more precise on exactly what points you want. Now that's really good if you're using scan data and you want to create regions or do an inspection of a certain area, because it gives you a lot more control than the standard selection. So there we go. I mean, I'm pretty much run out of time now, but there's 2 of my quick tips on Trimble Access.
Yeah, we can't reiterate enough the functionality in the map view in Trimble Access. It's it just keeps getting more and more diversified, what you can do in the map view by picking points, holding down on the screen, and the pop-up menus that come up there. That's where we get tons of functionality in terms of looking at information about points, laying out points,
Yep.
creating filters, all kinds of things in the map view.
Yeah, one of my, you can almost do every single functionality from the map. You select a point, it now turns to stakeout. You select 2 points, you can key in a line. You select 3 points, you can create a surface. Or maybe these don't have elevations, but you can create a surface. 4 points, what does 4 points let me do? Even more, volumes.
Averaging.
So, yeah. Well,
Okay.
thank you for having me.